It's time for another installment of
Budget Bombs.
Powerful commander cards for under $1.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, joined by Amber, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. And if you want to see exclusive Nitpicking Nerds stuff, because it's starting to pile up on Patreon, you can go over to Patreon and click join under any one of those tiers, and you're going to get to see exclusive Nitpicking Nerds videos not viewable anywhere else.
There's 2 videos on there currently right now, and there's going to be a new one every Saturday. So for only $2, you can sign up right now and be watching exclusive content. In fact, you would literally, if you sign up right now, $2 would get you 2 videos.
Seems pretty fair.
Wow, that is a great price, BZ.
Speaking of videos, I think this is the 830th video we've done in a row.
Those
are all free.
Yes, but if you want to support us, you can support us and support yourself by buying all of your Magic cards at CoolStuffInc.com. They are a website for buying Magic cards. All you have to do is use code
Nerds.
And as long as you're using code
Nerds,
then you will be supporting the
Nerds.
And then you're saving 5%. Boom. Because of code
Nerds.
Dragon Shield has the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
We literally use them on every single one of our decks. If you would like some Dragon Shields, you can use our EU and US link in the description below, and you will be supporting us by buying them there. Or you could just buy them on Cool Stuff Inc. and get 5% off using code
Nerds. And since I can stop saying that now, we are also sponsored by Maraschiello. There's an ad in the middle of the video. Feel free to guess where it is. You will be incorrect, but I would love to see you guess and fail. And happy birthday to everyone's birthday is today.
All right, let's hop in this video. This is Budget
Bombs.
Right in sync, as always. We've actually never messed that up. It's weird how in sync we are. These are powerful commander cards for under $1. If you're building on a budget, these cards are amazing. Some of them are even amazing off a budget. We'll let you know. But if you're playing restricted budget, I would say if you're in anywhere from $20 to $100 budget range, these cards are all great.
Yeah, they're all going to really play super well, and you're going to be surprised how strong you can make your decks even without combos for under $1 per card. Like this first one, Together Forever. It's white for enchantment, ETB, support 2, so you're putting 2+1/+1 counters on creatures, and you can pay 1 since the next time one of these things would die with a counter on it, instead it comes back to your hand.
All right, so Together Forever is obviously a counters card. You want it where your decks have a lot of counters, but it also gives a little fuel for itself by putting counters on when it enters.
So if your commander enters with a counter or has ways to put counters on creatures, it's basically unkillable. So I kind of like this in conjunction with specific commanders, especially.
This card requires a lot of synergy, but in the right decks, it's super strong. You hold up that mana, suddenly they can't remove your threats from the battlefield reliably.
Yeah, it's like a Selfless Spirit kind of imitation.
Yeah, and it's super annoying because it's like if you wipe the board and they were holding up 3 mana, they put the 3 best things back into their hand, and they just recast them, get all their ETBs again, and if they put counters on, wow, they're protected again. They can just do it again even if you try to remove it.
And the next card is actually cheating because it's a cycle of 5 cards.
And all of them are really, really good. This is the rare initiative cycle from Commander Legends Baldur's Gate. So we'll just go over them one by one. The first one, White Plume Adventurer, enters. All these do this. 3 mana, enters, takes the initiative. That means you go into this really awesome dungeon, and then on your upkeep, if you have the initiative, you do it again. And now the dungeon's really good. Like, you could take a look over here. You get a lot of value. I'm pointing the wrong way. It's over there.
We can't read it. This is too many words.
Yes, but I'm going to put it on screen so you can see there's a lot of value to be had from getting through this. So the key with all of these cards is caring about one of 2 things. One, is the initiative something I can reliably get back in my deck? The answer is yes. These cards can just go in right away. They're very, very strong. And then, is the other piece of synergy on this card good? White Plume Adventurer, in this case, is going to be untapping a creature. So does that have synergies for my deck? Does my commander perhaps have a tap-activated ability? That would make this card much stronger in your deck.
So if your commander does, and you don't even need the initiative ability, you just look at the text and you go, that's pretty good. You just get the initiative for free. This comes with, hey, go find a land. You're not going to miss your land drop this turn. Next turn, hey, scry 2. Next turn after that, you're like, oh, make a treasure or goat something or make somebody lose 5. It's just so much stuff that just starts piling up, and you really only spent X amount of mana right away, and it just gives you all this stuff. And the Tomb of Horrors Adventure copies your second spell each turn.
This card's good.
That's just free. You just get that. The initiative is all bonus. And then if you actually finish the dungeon, which is already amazing in itself, you now counter a copy of the spell twice.
I want to be this card's just good. I've been shocked by it. Getting the initiative is a very strong thing. It's worth a card in that. And then this one, what's sweet about it is your first spell can be this, meaning your second spell can be anything you can cast in that turn to get a copy right away. I think this character is very good. I think it has homes outside of budget. Big fan of it.
Yeah, if you untap with it, you're just in business. I've played this card in non-budget decks, and it's been great. And I think these 5 cards might almost, like if you're in $20 to $50 decks, they might just be cards you should just be playing. They might be staples.
They're really strong. Next is Ravenloft Adventurer. This one is going to be when their creatures die, they're going to get exiled, and there's some other text that we're not super worried about, but we take the initiative when it enters. As always, that text is pretty good. Kalitas is an expensive card. Kalitas is a better card than this.
Because it doesn't stop dice triggers, but it keeps them out of the graveyard.
Exactly. So this is worse than Kalitas, but this is budget Kalitas.
And Kalitas doesn't find you a land.
Very, very true. Caves of Chaos Adventurer. This one's going to impulse draw for you. Same thing. I like this. There's a lot of impulse draw commanders now, like a ton. Like they're all over the place now. This goes in any one of those on a budget. Even I currently have it in my non-budget Feldorn deck.
Yeah, I mean, plus finish a dungeon, you're just in Gravy Town. You're just not even spending mana.
Oh, it's so good. I love these things so much.
I love Underbound Adventure. It's the last one because it just is a 4-mana dude that adds 2 mana plus gets you a basic. That's like pretty good rate for a card already, assuming you don't adventure ever again. But when you finish, it just had 6 green.
Yes, yeah, and this thing is vigilant, so it can get an attack, potentially get you back the initiative, and then tap for mana. It's such a cool card. It's a green vigilance creature. Honestly, the initiative is a very strong mechanic, and on top of everything we just said, all that positivity about how good these cards are, the initiative is an extremely fun commander mechanic. As long as you are able to track it, it can be a little confusing. Once you have an initiative token and you actually can follow it, bring it with you if you have this card in your deck, boom. I honestly believe it is one of the most fun mechanics. The only downside is the confusion it can cause.
Yeah, the wordiness is rough, but I trust us. We're commander players. We play with confusing stuff all the time. It's not that much more confusing than your average commander game.
Yes, I mean, it's not more confusing than somebody casting Demonic Consultation and naming a card not in their deck. Yeah, that is very confusing.
That's true. The next one is Fevered Suspicion. This is an 8-mana chunky boy spell. And it's got Rebound, and you're going to exile a top card of each opponent's library until you hit a non-land spell. Then you just cast all those spells for free. Obviously, Rebound means you do it again next upkeep. So you get 6 spells for 8 mana for free. So unless you get really unlucky, you're going to get mana advantage. You're just not going to get card quality advantage because you have no idea what you're hitting.
This is a spin of the wheel. It really is, because you really have no clue what you're going to get. And if your opponents are playing super synergistic decks, this card is bad. That does happen sometimes. But if you're on a budget, there tends to be more good, generic stuff in decks. So you will see pretty decent stuff. It's also always going to be a 6-for-1, as BZ said. This card is solid. I like it kind of as a budget alternative to Nuatali. Where you can't afford to put them in, but you're in a black-red deck, okay, this card is also pretty good.
Yeah, I think it can definitely do work. It mixes the fun and the power, so it can't be powerful, but it's always going to be fun.
Yeah, when you add the spinning the wheel version to these cards, it makes them much more fun. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to hit. It's like when you cast Bribery, it's like, oh, Bribery, you get the best card on my deck. It's like, Fevered Suspicions can be better than Bribery. It could even be
the best creature
in their deck.
Whoa.
Next card, really, really strong. I play this one off a budget. Plenty. I just think it's a good card for Commander. Hour of Promise. 5 mana. You go get any 2 lands in your deck, put them on the battlefield tapped, and that says something about deserts. We don't care about that unless we're specifically playing, what is it? What is his name?
Deserts.
What's his name, though?
Hazazon?
Hazazon. Unless we're specifically playing Hazazon, we don't care about that text. This card is just amazing. Get the best 2 lands. Guess what? You trigger it. You cast when you have 5 lands in play. Oh, that means you're going to have 7 afterward. They all have different names. That's Field of the Dead territory, baby.
It is. And I know probably not playing Field of the Dead.
I know we're not talking about budget specifically, but this is a budget. It's good in budget. It's good off budget. It's good in both.
Go get your gates. Go get your Baldur's Gate and your Basilisk Gate. You can get actual cards that do things. There's plenty of good lands on a budget. We can't talk about them now, but we can talk about the fact that you can get any of them. I promise they exist.
Get a bounce land, bounce back at MDFC to your hand. Replay the MDFC. It's like you drew a card. It's so much value.
That's too much value. You better get this Hour Promise.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's super cheap, and it goes in budget and non-budget decks. I have a Thalian Gitwar Monster, no budget. It's playing every fetch land it can. It has this card in it because it's that good.
I think in Yorion Sky Noodle, also pretty good. This is your Blink commander. I mean, I guess you really want to play with all of the above mentioned ETB venture creatures, take the initiative creatures. This is just kind of like blinks your entire board, including mana rocks and non-land permanents and enchantments and all the stuff you want to reset or trigger again. And it's only 5 mana, and the thing that you usually end up doing with Yorion is using Resto Angel or Charming Prince to flicker out with Yorion, then it comes back and you flicker Yorion. So your board's only around half the time, but you're just drawing 6 cards and killing creatures every single time.
I'm really glad that Yorion, one of the companions that's not playable as a companion in Commander, is really, really good in the 99.
Yeah, it's the best one.
It gives it a home, and it's really actually an awesome card. This card, we don't have this effect anywhere else, simply put. When you look at kind of the other companions, those effects kind of are around. We can kind of do those kind of things. What blinks everything like Yorion. Pretty much nothing. This card is actually absurd. Brago is the only like comparable card. Yeah, this card is a 99 card. It's also a very good commander. If you want to build a budget blink deck, Yorion would be great to put at the helm.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I would be real scared of that deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because blink is one of the strongest budget mechanics, I would say.
I think one of the strongest things you can do on a budget, on like a $20 budget, is blink for sure. Especially, actually, really because of the initiative cards. You can slam them all in. Pretty much every initiative card. It's not like Scene Play and Legacy, which is only like 2 or 3 of them. You just throw it in your deck. Blue and white have a lot of them. I think they have 6 total, maybe 5 that you can play on a budget. And then you just spam them over and over and over and start completing dungeons and getting more creatures with more blink abilities, and it's like backbreaking.
I mean, every single initiative card, except for, I think, Seasoned Dungeoneer, is cheap.
Yeah, maybe like one more of them, but almost all of them.
Yeah, they're literally all budget
Pennies.
bombs.
I mean, budget bombs.
Yeah, budget bombs is what Peasy meant to say. Next, we have the Eternal Wanderer. 6 mana Planeswalker comes down, and what the best thing this thing can do, it can just wipe the board right away. It can also only be attacked by one creature. This is a great budget board wipe. It can make some creatures for itself also. This does a lot of little things. This is one of the board wipes I'm going to look to on a budget because it's so cheap.
Yeah, it lets you keep your best thing, and it lets you choose their worst things to stay in play. I had to think about it for a second because it's that good. And then it actually, if you have the best blocker, like if you just have some, let's say 8/8, and they have 4/4s, the Eternal Wanderer is not even going to die. She's going to make it back to your turn because it's actually a little tough to attack this Planeswalker, unlike every other Planeswalker.
Exactly. She's really, really strong. She protects herself decently well, and you can get that slightly overcosted board wipe with something else, which is what's cool. It's like, I'll take that board wipe. That's a decent board wipe, and now I also have this Planeswalker that came with it.
Finally, this being printed at Rare is paying off because it was complete misery in that limited format. But now it's like, oh, this card is like 80 cents or whatever. I can't wait to get some for my budget decks.
Yeah, super awesome budget card. This next card I am a huge fan of, especially on a budget. We talk about that blink deck. Put this in that blink deck because this is going to be the ultimate payoff late in the game. This is Ascend from Avernus. X, white, white, white. Return all creatures and planeswalkers from your graveyard with mana value X or less. So if you do it for like 5, everything 5 or less can be like 20 creatures if you're in a late game scenario. Back to the battlefield, get all their ETBs again. This is the non-MDFC version of Aghanim's Awakening, and obviously, it's when you actually cast it, it's stronger than Aghanim's Awakening.
It's a big late game finisher, and I think in budget decks we need big late game finishers. We can play a few more than non-budget. Our card quality is lower overall, so if we can have more effects in our deck that just slam 6 creatures and 8 creatures in play, that's going to be how we take over games.
Yeah, and this can also go in some sort of Abzan, like let's just say a budget Carador deck. You're building that budget Carador. This can be your budget Living End. Like, you don't have Living End. Okay, I can now play Ascent to Avernus. Now that's how I get all my creatures back from the graveyard for only less than $1 because this is a budget bomb.
Budget bomb, which we found out through Moxfield.com. You don't even have to go reference Redacted Site or Cool Stuff Inc. when you're on Moxfield.com because it just shows you the price right underneath the card. It saves you like infinite time when you're looking. I'd recommend if you're building your budget deck, you got to do it on Moxfield.com. Redacted Site, it's not going to cut it anymore.
Yeah, I literally built every single deck there. In fact, if you want to see my newest build, pseudo CDH, but not really CDH because I'm not good at building CDH. Second, I'm not really a CDH player. I have Gandalf the White Rider. That's right. Cards that are not out yet, you can start building those decks ahead of time. As soon as they're spoiled, as soon as that card makes its way to Moxfield, you can start building that deck for it. And it is so awesome. Take a look at my deck. Tell me how bad it is because I don't know anything about CDH.
And if it's bad, just start browsing other decks on Moxfield.
Comment. Leave a comment and follow us so you can see all of our decks and keep up. We're looking to get to 10,000 subs.
Let's do it.
Followers.
Let's do it. Let's go to the next one. It's Necroglyph. It's 5 mana. It's got madness for 3, so if you discard it, you can cast this star 4, where stars equals with all creatures in all graveyards, that number, and then each player has got to discard a card in their upkeep, and you madness this out because you're a efficient Magic player, so you probably don't care that you're going to have to discard. And if everybody discards and you don't, that's pretty good value.
Yes, this is obviously a hyper-specific card. You want to be madness. You want to be getting people's hands empty. You need a reason to want this card in your deck. You want to be playing Megrams. You want to play Liliana's Caress.
At least be playing a graveyard deck.
Exactly. You want to be playing things like that. Now, once you're doing that, this card is amazing because it becomes a madness enabler. And like BZ said, we're not going to really be discarding because when we discard a madness card and cast it, It's like we didn't discard at all.
Yeah, so it's going to be card advantage, and let's not forget this thing's going to be like a 15-4. So if you can sneak it through for some way, you probably have Rogue's Passage in your budget deck. If you can sneak it through, you can just kill people with this if they're not ready for it.
Rogue's Passage is a budget bomb we've talked about in the past. That is a very good budget bomb. Let's move on to another blink card, actually. This is Ether Channeler. It enters the battlefield, 3 mana. It's a 2/1, and you can make a bird with it. You can draw a card, or you can bounce something to its owner's hand. Really, this card is all about versatility. It's all about the choices, because each single version is meh, right? It's like 3 mana draw a card.
Well,
or
3 mana Slice, I wouldn't play. I probably wouldn't even play 3 mana Dice. But if it slices and dices, I might play it.
But what if it also
Thrices.
thrices?
Then
That's
I would
right.
definitely play it.
Slices, dices, and thrices. That's why we're playing Ether Channeler. And also, it makes a bird, which you can draw on your Finna tokens. #not sponsored.
Yeah, I actually saw a game at a con a few months ago where somebody was playing Aether Channeler, and the first time they played it, they used it to bounce a really big commander. But the second time they played it, they used it to bounce something else, and they realized a second after that they would have lived if they had just made a bird. Like, don't forget the thrice ability.
Never forget thrice.
You can do different modes. You can use different modes.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong card, honestly. Like, make sure you're blinking it, make sure you're reusing it, but when you're doing that, this card is great.
I want the full cycle, because we're getting 2 and a blank 2/1s that do 3 things when they enter. Because we have
Callous Blood
Mage is the other one.
Oh, is there no other one? I thought you were going to list
I think that was it.
I thought you were going to list 3 of them.
Oh, now it's a thing though.
Oh, there's only 2. Okay, we're working. It's a slow cycle. This is a slow work in progress.
7 more years.
Turning the page, we can go to Volcanic Visions. This is a 7 mana sorcery. Return an instant sorcery from your graveyard to your hand, then deal damage to each creature you don't control.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Equal to the mana value of that card. So even if you return, let's just say a 4-drop spell, totally reasonable, not even high at all, you're going to wipe a vast majority of the board while leaving yours intact. This is going to be a pseudo Plague Wind in a Spellslinger deck.
Yeah, Joe's boyfriend actually lost a game because he didn't realize that this was a asymmetrical wipe and then died because he was the biggest threat.
And even though it did kill them in that case, it's still amazing.
Well, it killed them because it was so much better than they thought it would be.
Yeah, it was just
like, I didn't mean to do that. I thought I was going to kill one thing.
Yeah, no, Volcanic Vision is just a ridiculous board wipe. Like I said, this is mainly Spellslinger. You want to have a large count of spells. You're probably looking at, 30 plus?
Yeah, I'll get your Delve spells in there. They're all super cheap, too.
Yeah, exactly. If you, how awesome is that going to feel? All right, I will cast my Dig Through time. All right, I'll pick Volcanic Visions. Next turn, 8 to all creatures I don't control.
Or just the same turn. It's only 9 mana
No.
as opposed to 7.
No, it's such a strong card. I mean, and it rebuys whatever spell. It's not like you just get a board wipe. You get that spell back to your hand to use whenever you want.
It seems like the ceiling's really high. There's a couple spells like this. Volcanic Vision, I would not sleep on it if you're on a budget.
No, it's a good card. Spellslinger mainly, but very good card.
Oh man, I love Skullport Merchant so much. It makes a treasure when it enters, so it really only costs 1 and a black for a 1/4. Then you can pay 1 and a black and sack a treasure or a creature to just draw a card. This 1 and a black, sack a thing, draw a card. I'm not in love with it for regular commander, but in budget commander, I actually am kind of all about it. I want 1 or 2 of these in my deck.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. This is very much a budget thing. I would not play Skullport Merchant off a budget. Once I have 150 access to 150 or more
Kind of forget about
for my budget, I kind of just start forgetting. But when you're in these lower budgets, this is just a really good aristocrat card, especially when you have synergies with treasures. I think of Mahadi, who can just make a treasure for each creature that died this turn.
And then this thing makes creatures die?
Yeah, and then this thing makes creatures die, and it can sack treasures. When you can convert treasures into cards, that gets really strong, because now you make 100 treasures. Once half of them are cards and half of them are mana, it's covering both things. That's really strong.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, Mahadi's going to be on the next episode, because that card is kind of a champ.
It is very good. All right, let's go on to a great protection spell for under $1. It's Lazelle's Acrobatics. It's 4 mana instant, and you exile all your creatures and return them on the end step. But if you roll good, if you get a good roll, you flicker them, they come back, and then you exile them again, and they come back in the end step, meaning you'll re-get all their ETBs 2 times in that case.
While surviving a board wipe only for 4 mana, I feel like, Joe, you just put a blue-white blink deck on this.
Yeah, this is completely by chance. When I was selecting these, I wasn't I wasn't even going through a blink deck and finding blink cards. It just happened to be that I happened to find a bunch of blink cards that I thought were awesome on a budget.
Yeah, I remember having to look really hard for this card because it's one of the only versions of this that is under $1. I think your other option is Semester's End that just got reprinted. But the other ones like Eerie Interlude, they're like way too expensive now.
Yeah, for like $20 and $50 decks, 100%. You just can't get them in your deck. It's sad.
You have this one and you have some Master's End. So yeah, I hope you like one of those cards.
Pick one or the other.
I like this one way better.
All right, let's move on to Sakashima's Protege. This is a 3/1 for 6 mana with Cascade. So you can Cascade into whatever you hit, obviously. And then if it's a permanent, it'll enter the battlefield. And what's cool about that is this says anything enter the battlefield this turn, this can enter as a Colonus, including lands. Not that you necessarily want to play a 6 mana land, but it gives you a fallback. If, like, say you waited until right before your turn, like, well, I want to cast this, you play it and you hit an instant. It's like, oh, well, at least I can have it enter as the land my opponent played this turn.
Right, so now you're paying 6 mana for a land and like a 4 mana instant. That's still fine.
Exactly. What I like about this is mainly the Cascade. It lets you get 2 cards for the price of 1. All Cascade cards do that, but this one's extremely cheap. And having Flash means that you get to sit and wait, look and see if any player plays something you want, and then just slam this to get whatever the best thing that entered before your turn is.
And sometimes you can even predict what they're going to play. Like, oh, this seems like a really good turn for their commander. I bet they're going to play it. I'll take one too. And I also like that it has the key 6 mana if you're playing Emoti for some reason. Extra Cascade.
Yeah, I mean, this card is designed to work in the Emoti deck because they literally come from the same format. So they were designed to work together like that.
That's true.
Yeah. Let's go on. Let's see. We got Fight Rigging. This is 2 and a green for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, Hideaway 5. Look at the top 5. Exile 1 face down underneath this card. And then when you go to combat, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. And if any creature on your side of the field has 7 or more power, play that Hideaway spell for absolutely free. I love this in +1/+1 counter decks. I love this in Powers Matters decks. I guess that's really it. I mean, there might be other ones, but those two, when you can trigger this really, really easily and get that card for free, suddenly you just have this like medium enchantment that played a card for free. And it's fine that the enchantment's actual effect is medium because the free card is what we came for.
If you cantrip a spell for free for 3 mana, that's already like, I'm interested in that. Especially if you can decide out of your first 5, so you're not going to whiff. And then it just puts counters on every turn. So like over the course of the game, you might get 4, 5, 6 power out of this. I love this card. I play this card all the time in Budget.
And also, another thing that's really awesome about this card, it cheats mana. So you're always going to pay 3 mana. You're almost never going to get something that's 3 or cheaper.
Your investment can't be more than 3. This is a very low investment card.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, even if you flip a Beast Within, it's like, oh, I spent 3 mana for Beast Within and this enchantment that does something. So even when you don't get the mana advantage, you still get 2 cards for the price of 1.
And it's not like it stops working after you cast it. It doesn't sacrifice itself. You just keep getting those counters. It's great.
Exactly. And it's a threat within itself. You get the card, and like that's all the value you needed because you got a free spell out of this. Now this enchantment here, so if they use say they use a 1/1 removal spell because it's become a big threat, all of a sudden you just got card advantage from this card.
Thank you for my card advantage. And I'm going to flicker it with Yorion next turn.
Bum, bum, bum.
Because this is all one deck. Except for this card, which does not go into Yorion deck, really. It's Primal Command. You're going to choose 2 of the following 4 modes for 5 mana at sorcery speed. You're going to gain 7. You're going to shuffle someone's graveyard in. You're going to put a permanent into someone's library on top. You're going to put a non-creature permanent on top of its owner's library. Or you're going to search for a creature card and put it in your hand. Most likely, you're going to search for a creature card and then find whatever other the modes is best.
Yeah, there's lots of great modes in this. I love that this is Incidental Graveyard Hate. That's not the mode we necessarily want, but searching for a creature for 5 mana, everything is overcosted, but it's so versatile. It also has the ability, because they're of the order they're in, you can shuffle your graveyard into your library and then search for a creature. That is an option that you can do, meaning if something in your graveyard that you want, you could get that and tutor for that if that happened to come up. All these different awesome combinations. You can also gain 7 life if that matters. And sometimes
I was thinking the cool combination is like putting in a hard to answer permanent, like, I don't know, contamination on top of their library and then making them shuffle their graveyard in.
Yeah, I mean that's
basically kill something.
Yeah, I like that. There's just a bunch of different little combinations that work together. Like you said, shuffling something into their library is cool. And I do like that. If your best permanent's in your graveyard and you don't have your Eternal Witness type effect, hey, I'll just shuffle everything in and then go get it again because I need it.
Yeah, this is a card I would never touch outside of Budget. This is very much a Budget bomb exclusively. But you got to get your tutors somewhere. Some decks really want access to 3 or 4 specific creatures. And it's not like you don't want to play nothing, and I still never want to touch Diabolic Tutor, so let's get some extra action in my tutor.
If you're ever thinking that, like, oh, but my cards are weaker, do I want tutors? We literally just played a $20 budget game probably 2 weeks ago, and the game was decided by Violent Tumor. That won the game. It legitimately was just that card by itself getting that tutor that made that game unwinnable for everyone else and won that. So even on a budget, tutors are obscenely strong. And if you want to check out, well, what were the budget bombs for last month, why don't you go click the video right there next to BZ. It's not on BZ, it's over next to BZ. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.